Welcome to the coming apocalypse. Evangelist and pastor Paul Begley will take you on a journey into the end times prophecy. He'll examine current world events and explain how they relate to the end times. For decades, Pastor Begley has provided people all over the world with an understanding of today's world events from a biblical perspective. Now, here's your host, Pastor Paul Begley.
Are you serious? Are you serious? Are you serious?
The earth can shake.
Are we live?
The mountains all.
Holy land goes up in smoke.
None of those things.
Music playing.
Shelter me, Lord, underneath your wings. Dark waters rise, the thunder pounds, the wheels of war are going round, and all the walls are crumbling.
Yes, they are.
Shelter me, Lord, underneath your wings. Shelter me, Lord, underneath your wings. Hide me underneath your wings. Hide me deep inside your heart.
It's getting crazy.
Your refuge, cover me.
Thank you, Daryl.
Lord, I'm making you my hiding place. The wind will blow, the rain can pour, the deluge break, the tempest roars. But in that storm, my spirit sings. Shelter me, Lord, underneath your wings. Shelter me, Lord, underneath your wings.
Somebody shout. Shelter me, Lord. I got some coffee. Here we go. Something biblical's going on with the signs of the second coming of Christ.
Hide me underneath your wings.
Shalom. Shalom, Michelle.
In your refuge, cover me.
I'll give you an update in a minute, Pauline.
Lord, I'm making you my hiding place. Now on that day, you call for me. Someday when time no more shall be, and I say, death, where is your sting? Shelter me, Lord, underneath your wings. Shelter me, Lord, underneath your wings.
Shelter me. Yeah. Get ready, folks. The Holy Land going up in smoke. War and rumors of war in the Holy Land. We're in the last days. This is exactly what the Bible said would come. With the exact nations surrounding Jerusalem.
Hide me underneath your wings.
Put on your seatbelt.
Hide me deep inside your heart. In your refuge, cover me. The world can shake, but Lord, I'm making you my hiding place. Now on that day, you call for me.
What?
Someday when time
Oh, yes, that's from our brand new CD, The Journey. Shelter me, Lord. Shelter me underneath your wings. Well, I'm glad to have everybody here tonight. You know, the Bible told us that we would see these days. Jesus said there'd be wars and rumors of wars. See that you not be troubled. Let not your hearts be troubled. He said there will be wars, rumors of wars. See that you be not troubled, for all these things must come to pass. But the end is not yet, for nation shall rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom. Again, Psalms 83. Keep not thou silence, O God, and hold not thy peace, and be not still, O God. For lo, thy enemies have made a turmoil, and they that hate thee have lifted up the head. They've taken crafty counsel against thy people, and consulted against thy hidden ones. They've said, come, let us cut them off from being a nation, that the name of Israel may be no more in remembrance. For they've consulted together with one consent. They are confederate against thee. We are witnessing, I think this might be, I'm not saying it is, but folks, I'm telling you, we may be witnessing the beginning of Psalms 83. These are actual photos from tonight. Israel has already hit Gaza over 100 times, and Gaza has already fired 30 rockets into Israel tonight. When Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu was at the White House with President Donald Trump, of course, his phone started going off as it was lit up because of what was taking place, the attacks that were taking place against Israel, while the two of them were standing right there in the Oval Office. Now, we even had a live interview with Dr. Anthony Harper from the White House this morning while this situation was taking place. And that was an extraordinary situation. But the war, it is not, folks, it's for real now, okay? This thing, I mean, at one point Netanyahu said, basically, the president had just given me the green light. And I think he's going to wipe out Hamas. I think he's just going to go ahead and say, you know what, I'm done with these guys. I'm just going to take them out of power. I'm going to completely crush them. Let me tell you what's going on. We've got some information here. I'm going to get to the earthquakes and that stuff in just a moment. But 30 rockets have now pounded Israel despite calls for a ceasefire. Despite talks of a ceasefire at about 11 p.m., rockets continue to be shot into Israel from Gaza. Despite talks of a ceasefire, and at approximately midnight, a rocket barrage was shot into the Escalation Regional Council, and also to one of the other regional councils where a spokeswoman for the cluster of communities said power was cut due to the attacks. This happened in Israel. Many residents reportedly went to sleep in bomb shelters tonight all over Israel, as communities in the Gaza Belt region have 15 seconds. That is rockets coming from Gaza, fired into Israel. 1, 2, 3, 4 in a row, 5, 6, maybe more. And you only got 15 seconds. When the siren goes off, you got 15 seconds. It's called a code red warning. When that siren goes off, you've got 15 seconds before rocket impact. In most cases, rockets get shot down by the Iron Dome, but sometimes they don't, as one rocket hit a house in Tel Aviv today, wounding 7 people, including 2 infants, with shrapnel. Okay? The latest wave of rockets caused no injuries so far this evening, but you can see it has lit up the sky, and school's been canceled already for tomorrow in the biblical city of Ashkelon because of this attack. First rockets to be fired appeared in Israel about 5:20 this morning, 5:20 a.m., and here we are, they're continuing to fire them. Now, with that, 7 people were injured and 4 dogs were killed when that rocket hit that house. It injured all 7 residents inside, including 2 babies with shrapnel. And one 12-year-old girl had to go into surgery. But 4 dogs were killed from the attack. Now, President Trump, the rocket led to an escalation between Israel and Hamas as Israel retaliated. Prime Minister Netanyahu, expected to return to Israel in the morning, skipped his scheduled speech at AIPAC and said, forget it, I got to go home. Elected officials across the spectrum have weighed in. And remember, guys, the 16 people running for president all skipped the AIPAC thing because they're not going to stand with Israel, they said. And that's really, really strange. I've never seen anything like this. The destruction, Israel is America's ally. It's always been that way. And both parties always supported Israel until apparently what we're witnessing now seems to be very strange. The destruction of the terrorist homes is taking place right now. Here's what's going on. Trump formally recognized Israeli sovereignty over the Golan Heights this morning from the White House. He formally did it and signed the document. Look at Netanyahu, how happy he is. Okay? And you can see the smile back there on Jared Kushner's face. As a matter of fact, all of the people were so happy. Trump, very stern in this declaration. U.S. President signs the proclamation formally recognizing Israel's sovereignty over the Israeli-occupied Golan Heights. No longer occupied Golan Heights. It is Israeli territory. U.S. President Donald Trump said today, formally recognizing Israeli sovereignty over Israel's Golan Heights, reversing decades of U.S. policy. The announcement came as Benjamin Netanyahu visited the White House on a trip that the Israeli Prime Minister said he cut short after the early morning rocket attack allegedly was fired from Gaza and struck the home in central Israel, wounding 7 people and killing 4 dogs. Now, Israel began striking Hamas targets in Gaza this afternoon. The Israeli military said Hamas had earlier denied its movement was behind the overnight rocket, but now we're not going to buy that. Monday's decree formalized Trump's statement last week saying it was time for the U.S. to fully recognize Israeli sovereignty over the Golan. And the move appeared to give Netanyahu a boost before the closely contested April 9th Israeli elections that are coming up. So, yeah, it's getting very ugly. It's getting very ugly in the Holy Land. It is going up in smoke tonight. We are on the brink of Psalms 83. And maybe now we understand why there was a blood moon over Israel, the longest of the century, and there was a super blood moon over Washington. And I said both those were signs to both the United States and Israel and for the world. And I think you're starting to see this now. And I hope this doesn't mean we're about ready to witness the longest war that Israel's had to deal with. You know, they had their 50-day war with Hamas back in 2014, right in between those 4 blood moons. So we're not sure how this is going to shake out. Now, while this is going on, the Mueller report has been released. And according to this report, I did a Patreon on this. Okay, so you can check it all out at Patreon. I read the entire Attorney General final summary and conclusion of this on Patreon because there is some sensitive information there that I felt like I should just keep it over there at Patreon and not stir up any unwanted anger anywhere. But I read the entire report over there, so check it out on my Patreon account. But I can tell you this, bottom line, the President of the United States did not commit a crime, nor was there any collusion. I'll read one paragraph. Here's what it says. The special counsel's investigation did not find, that's William Barr, he is now the Attorney General, and he wrote, the special counsel's investigation, Robert Mueller, did not find that the Trump campaign or anyone associated with it conspired or coordinated with Russia in its efforts to influence the 2016 U.S. presidential election. That's the bottom line. As the report states, the investigation did not establish that members of the Trump campaign conspired or coordinated with the Russian government in its election interference activities. But now there is some other people named in this report that would shock you. Okay, so I'm going to let that go and let you, if you want to know the entire Attorney General final conclusion and summary, go to my Patreon. A lot of you are already members of my Patreon account, so just go over there and listen to that video. Or if you're not, join it, okay? Join it and support us as we go forward in this. Obviously, I have to deal with censorship. I'm sorry. We're dealing with it, okay? And I'm doing my very best to bring you everything I can as well as possible. But even when you might say, well, Paul, just say what it is. You can't. You can say what it is to a degree, but sometimes you can't say what is the truth, because if you do, it could be censored, okay? So I can report on certain things all the way, but there's certain things I can only give you a little bits of it and then say, look, go to Patreon and get the rest of it. And that's sad, but that's the time we're in. I don't know what happened to the Second Amendment. Well, I don't know where that's going. Yeah, I don't know what happened to the First Amendment is what I'm saying. Okay, let me go on. MSNBC anchor, did you hear about Stormy Daniels' attorney, Avenatti? What is, he's getting very naughty. Michael Naughty Avenatti is being charged. He was arrested this afternoon, handcuffed, drug out of his house, being charged with extortion, trying to extort $25 million from Nike. What? This dude, is he a lawyer? Is this dude really a lawyer? $25 million he tried to extort Nike company. Are you serious? Michael Naughty Avenatti, here's what's going on, guys. I'm not joking. This is not, no, this is not fake news. This guy was handcuffed. This is Stormy Daniels' attorney, This guy, and everybody already says he's pretty sleazy, but I've tried to refrain from that word. But now look at this. Okay, let me read on here. Monday has probably been the single most embarrassing day for the members of the resistance, as their partners in the cable news media. Not only did the Pulitzer Prize-winning journalist Glenn Greenwald just absolutely trash the Russian collusion narrative with a total fraud and scam, he said, but this might be the saddest media day in history for the talking heads. But the arrest of former Stormy Daniels attorney, the one-time 2020 wannabe presidential candidate, was arrested today, has sent cable news reporters combing through their feeds quickly to delete any embarrassing tweets and photos that they might have had with him. Okay? They don't want to have that show up anywhere where they were hanging out with Michael Naughty Avenatti. It might be naughty. CNN host Don Lemon, CNN political analyst April Ryan, who were drinking and partying and dancing with Avenatti, have quickly started deleting hundreds of photos. CNN interviewed Avenatti 100 times last year. Was that before he was trying to extort Nike, or after extortion? I don't know. I know they don't know about that. And so I'm not blaming them, because you can't be guilty by association, although that's all cable news networks seem to want to do to everybody they can, is make everybody guilty by association. Matter of fact, a lot of people try to do that to me and maybe some of you folks out there right here on YouTube and Facebook and places. It's like, what are you talking about? If one guy does something, why are you trying to throw all that mud around everywhere else? Anyway, that was free. I just put that out there for free. Let me just say, Avenatti is very, very, very naughty and being charged with multiple federal crimes. What? Now, before Avenatti, personal scandals ranging from physical abuse. Remember when he was stiffing his former employees? He was charged with domestic battery on his ex-wife and then on his girlfriend. He's been hanging out with Stormy Daniels and trying to come against the president. He talked about running for the presidency of the United States himself, but now he's been arrested for trying to extort Nike out of $25 million I don't even understand that one. Wait a minute, Brock, I'm not done. Porn star Stormy Daniels said, though, she was not surprised about this arrest of her former attorney, Michael Avenatti, and hinted there was more to know about his dishonesty that would soon come out later. Apparently, Avenatti has been quite naughty, and now extortion, $25 million. He tried to extort from Nike because of information he had that would have hurt Nike's, their stock value. So he said, if you don't want me to release this information, apparently in New York, federal prosecutors have charged Avenatti with 4 counts of extortion and conspiracy for allegedly threatening to reveal that he claimed he had evidence that Nike made improper payments to high school basketball players unless the company paid $1.5 million to one of his clients and $15 million, somewhere between $15 and $25 million to him, and also to an associate to conduct the investigation of Nike. So he's saying, look, we know what you did, Nike. You give my client $1.5 million, you give me $25 million, and we'll just go away. That's extortion. That's illegal. But Michael Naughty Avenatti. Guys, when we say that, can I say one thing? When I say the swamp is slippery and slimy and sleazy and slushy and stinky, it's a cesspool of sin. Okay, let's see what's going on in earthquakes before I go in, because I got to talk about CERN here in a minute. It's just pitiful. It's pitiful. What am I doing, Brock? Oh, you struggling over here, Brock? Hang on. Did that help? Okay, let me get the earthquake map. We got 1,500 people here. The Holy Land's going up in smoke, guys. Rockets are flying everywhere. 30 rockets have been fired at Israel. 7 Israeli citizens have been wounded, including 2 babies, from shrapnel from Hamas. Israel's responded by rocking them with 100 airstrikes, and I don't think they're even nearly done with what they want to do. I think they're going to go for it. I think they're going for it. I heard they've already sent 2 battalions of troops and tanks and everything are rolling toward the Gaza Strip right now. I think they're going to go in and just absolutely take Hamas out. I think they're going to. I think it's time to just remove those guys and then give the Palestinian people a fresh start with who can you negotiate with? You can't negotiate with them. Hang on a second. I'm sorry, I'm talking and typing at the same time. It's just getting ugly, guys. I mean, the Palestinian people deserve better. They deserve so much better. Yeah, there you see Netanyahu was talking to President Trump, and all of a sudden his phone was just blowing up, and it was rockets flying into Israel, and just getting ugly. We had 26 earthquakes the last 24 hours. I'd like to see what's going on with those around the globe. Here's what we got: a 4.6 in the Philippines, a 2.8 right there in Oklahoma, Blanchard, Oklahoma, 3.3 Anchorage, Alaska. A lot of activity up around there. 4.8 Indonesia, 2.7 Puerto Rico, 2.6 Anthony, Kansas. What? 2.5 Kodiak, Alaska. Again, 2.5 in Alaska. 2.6 Manhattan, Montana. Yellowstone danger zone. You always have to be worried about that. And then there's a 4.9 earthquake hit Pakistan. 2.5. Alaska's all shaking and quaking. 4.6 India. 4.5 Fiji Islands. 4.0 Greece. 4.4 Ecuador. 2.8 and 3.3 Alaska. 4.1 Chile. I got to move that out of the way so you can see that right there. And then we had a, looks like about a 4.8 in New Zealand, 4.6 Japan, 4.6 China, 3.4 Alaska, 3.1 Alaska, 4.3 Argentina just happened. 26 earthquakes the last 24 hours. Kind of quiet. Let's hope it stays that way. Let's go look at the space report out there, what's going on in space very quickly here if I can. Here we go. And we have 331. The solar winds are blowing 331 kilometers per second on the surface of the sun. We've had a weak impact, a coronal mass ejection, a CME hit the Earth's magnetic field yesterday. The impact was very weak and did not even spark the geomagnetic storm as they expected it would. Lesser geomagnetic unrest is possible for today, but we haven't heard anything from it yet. There is holes in the sun's atmosphere, though. You can see all those, but there's no CME, no problem, okay? All right, that's good. As far as fireballs are concerned, it's been very quiet for a little over a week now. Only 7 last night. We'll take that. That's perfect. As far as asteroids are concerned, nothing today. We got 1 tomorrow. Don't worry about it. It's asteroid 2019 EN, and it's going to miss us by 9.7 lunar distance. No danger there. I'm not worried about the ones we can see. I'm worried about the ones they can't see. Okay, that seems to be the ones that hit us. So we'll keep an eye on all of that going on. So it's very interesting. But back to the main story in Israel, we're going up in smoke right now. The attacks are raging. The situation out of control. 30 rockets pounding Israel out of Gaza, and 1 rocket hit a house in Tel Aviv, injuring all 7 of the family members, including 2 infants who got shrapnel. And everybody got shrapnel and burns, but these little babies got shrapnel in them. That's not good. And then it killed 4 dogs when it hit also. So despite all that, Benjamin Netanyahu was sitting in the White House when all this was taking place. Trump basically gave him the green light. There you see the rockets flying out of Gaza. Brock's giving you a tremendous picture there of that taking place. Israel's fighting back, though. They've already hit Hamas with over 100 hits, and I bet you that number's over 200 by now. Plus, they've got 2 brigades of tanks and soldiers that are converging on the Gaza Strip. I don't know if they're going to go in. Is there an invasion get ready to happen? We might see Israel just keep bombing them, airstrike after airstrike, and soften them up, and then Israel may just go in and say good night to Hamas. They may just turn the lights on them, and I'm actually thinking that's what they're going to do. I'm thinking that Netanyahu may just go for broke and take these guys out and say, okay, no, Hamas is no longer in Gaza. Now who represents the Palestinian people? We'd like to talk to you about a new peace arrangement. And that's where Trump walks in with Jared Kushner and their peace deal. Now, I've had Dr. Anthony Harper on here several times, had him today from the White House. And we're talking about it. He's still concerned that it's a 2-state solution that is coming forward. I don't know what it is. I mean, all indication we keep seeing is that it might be just a 1-state solution where everybody lives a better life because Trump wants to have money invested in the infrastructure so that Palestinian people can have jobs. I mean, actually, Trump wants peace, and he wants the people to be able to make a living instead of shooting bombs and blowing up things and hurting people and stabbing and that kind of stuff. So how do you do it? Okay, how do you get there? Well, you don't get there by just keep firing rockets or balloons or whatever else you're throwing across the border at each other. I want to welcome all 1,700 of you. Look at it. That's a lot. That's a picture from this evening. Israel smashing the Hamas headquarters. It's over there. Okay. I mean, they're hitting them with everything they got now. I mean, they're not nuking them, but they're really going in there with some heavy airstrikes. And this is really sad, okay, but this is what's going on. And you knew it's coming. Psalms 83, Ezekiel 38. Jesus said in Matthew 24, he said, when you see Jerusalem compassed about, actually he said it in Luke 21. He said, when you see Jerusalem compassed about with armies, Know that the desolation thereof is nigh. Okay? He told us to watch and pray, for an hour you think not, the Son of Man cometh. If you read Ezekiel 38, he tells you that Gog keeps God. And guess what, guys? While Israel's dealing with Hamas in Gaza, the United States is putting troops on the ground in Iraq and Syria to protect the Golan. Also, Israel's putting more battalions up on the Golan for fear that Russia and Iran will try to come over the Golan, which is what the Bible said they will do. They're going to. You might as well get your troops up there. Now, I'm not saying that Russia and Iran's going to do it next week, but they're going to do it. It's Ezekiel 38, 39. Oh, by the way, Russia's in Venezuela. That's Russian officers. As you heard, we also interviewed John Moore this afternoon on today's show. John said the Russians are putting in their first wave, phase 1 he called it. You send in all your engineers and people they go in there and they start setting up. Brock, you was in the engineer in Fort Lewis. That's what you were a member of the, I forgot what the name of your battalion was. The 5th Battalion? No, what were you? 55 double nickel? Anyway, he was in the engineering department. I can't remember. He was among the engineers that go in there and set stuff up. But when you go in and set stuff up, you have to also fight your way into the spot you're going to set up. It's not just like you have to walk in. Okay, that's a Russian officer on the ground in Venezuela talking to the civilians. That picture taken yesterday. The Russians are there, guys. And more planes are coming, plane after plane, and supplies. And I mean, they're setting up shop. They're going nowhere. Their whole plan is to protect Nicolas Maduro. They've already announced today they're setting up the S-300 missile defense systems down there in Venezuela. Israel's going up in smoke right now. I shouldn't say Israel. The Holy Land is. Israel's been hit with 30 rockets today. We know that Gaza's been hit with over 100 airstrikes. I bet you it's more like 200 or 250 by now. I don't have the exact count, but they're blowing stuff all to pieces. And what they're doing is, I got a report over here, they're actually hitting Hamas significant locations. Okay, symbolic Hamas location. Israel's Air Force bombs 3 symbols of Hamas's leadership or rule in Gaza. That sounds like they're taking Hamas out, which is what, I had a conversation with my good buddy Alan down there in Texas. He and I were talking about this morning, and I think he's the one that told me a few days ago that, hey, look, I look for Israel to just go in and get rid of Hamas and remove them from the equation. Brock has been saying the same thing to me. I have not come out and made that public. I haven't said, hey, I think that's what they're going to do, but I'm saying it now. I think that's what they're going to do because it makes perfect sense, actually. You go in there, you get rid of Hamas, and then you say to the Palestinian people, who can we talk to now about negotiating a deal to where you guys can live peaceably in the land? We'd love to work with you. We'd love to rebuild your schools, love to build your hospitals. We'd love to have jobs. We'd love to see factories brought in. We're getting, and that's what I understand this peace deal really is going to be offered. That's the kind of thing that Saudi Arabia, and that's what really the Jared Kushner deal that's coming. A one-state solution where everybody lives better and more peaceably. I'm not sure that's what it's going to be. It could be a 2-state solution. They may part the land. They shouldn't. I don't want them to. But I can't stop it. And when I look at Bible prophecy, I actually think they will. I'll be honest with you. So I'm not going to get all uptight when I see it. Because when I read Genesis, I know they're not supposed to. But when you read Genesis, it's like God prophesies they're going to anyway. Because he tells Rebekah in Genesis 23:25, he says, Rebekah, in your womb is 2 nations and 2 manner of people. Can I find that scripture real fast? I mean, there's no denying this. This has never happened yet. I mean, everybody's waiting for it. Here it is. It's Genesis 25. Genesis 25, verse 22 or 23. Here's what the Lord says to Rebekah. She's pregnant. She don't even know she's got twins. She's about ready to miscarriage. She said, I thought this was the promised child. I thought you promised me I was going to have the child. Why am I struggling? And here's what the Lord says to her. And the children In verse 22, the children together within her, she said, if it be so, then why am I thus? And she went to inquire of the Lord. The Lord said unto her, 2 nations and 2 manner of people shall be separated from your bowels. The one people shall be stronger than the other people, and the elder will serve the younger. And when her days to be delivered were fulfilled, behold, there were twins in her womb. The first came out red and all over like a hairy garment, and they called his name Esau. And after that came out his brother. His hand took hold of Esau's heel. His name was called Jacob. And Isaac was 60 years old when she bare them. Okay, 70. So, okay, there's your two nations and 2 manner of people, and that's never happened. Israel was the children of Israel, but they really didn't become a full nation until 1948. And it's always been one nation. There's not 2. So we haven't seen this prophecy that's 4,000 years old. It's not been fulfilled. So I can almost say that even though God tells them in Joel 3:2, don't part the land, they're going to part the land, is what it looks like. God don't want them to, but they're going to. Sort of like God don't want you to steal, but people steal. Okay? 10 commandments there. God says do this, people don't. Doesn't mean the commandment wasn't right. Doesn't mean it wouldn't have been a better way. But I can't stop this. What do you want me to do? I don't know. Maybe it won't be. I don't think that's what Trump wants. I think the president wants it to be a one-state solution where everybody holds hands and sings Kumbaya, and they all go to work and build, Trump towers in Gaza or something. I think he'd like to see a Trump tower in Jerusalem and a Trump tower in Tel Aviv and maybe even a Trump hotel in Gaza, for all I know. But the bottom line is this. The Jews want to build the 3rd temple, and the Palestinians want to have some kind of sovereignty of their own, something to call their own. At the end of the day, you almost can see this coming. There's over 2,000 of you with us live right now, but right now, there ain't nobody talking peace deal, because apparently we're going to have to fight first before they can have a peace deal, which is what I've been saying. When they say peace and safety, then sudden destruction cometh. This is what I'm telling you. Breaking. The Holy Land is going up in smoke. And while that's happening, this peace deal situation, this peace deal situation is certainly happening. It's on the table. They're getting ready to put it on the table, but Netanyahu, the election is April 9th. So it's almost like you got to have this war first. I don't want it. Maybe you don't. Maybe peace, then war, but maybe it's war, then peace, then war again. Look, Jesus is coming back for the bride. Somebody better get ready. But we got to continue to watch what's going on. Israel, God has his hand on Israel. Don't touch the apple of God's eye. There's a theology called replacement theology, okay? Just want you to know that's about 15% of Christianity believe in what's called replacement theology. 85% of Christians believe that Israel is very important, that the land of Israel is very important in God's kingdom, that Jerusalem is the holy city, and that Christ is coming back to Jerusalem. And that the establishment of Israel as a nation was a prophecy fulfilled. Every biblical prophecy scholar confirms that was the fulfillment of Ezekiel 37, where Israel was rebirthed as a nation. Every Bible prophecy scholar. There's not one out there. There might be one guy out there somewhere who don't see it, but that's probably because he's a replacement theologist. A replacement theologist